Time to start with the front page here on the Wells Report. This for Wednesday, September 20th, 2023. The DOJ, the Department of Justice, Attorney General Merrick Garland is set to testify before the House Judiciary Committee. That hearing theoretically is going on as we speak. The report from CNN, Attorney General Merrick Garland is expected to forcefully rebuke congressional Republicans who have accused the Justice Department of political bias. This according to excerpts of his prepared testimony to be delivered at a House Judiciary Committee hearing today. Quote, "I am not the president's lawyer," unquote. This, according to the excerpts obtained by CNN. "I will also add that I am not Congress's prosecutor. The Justice Department works for the American people," unquote. He will say the Justice Department's job is to, quote, pursue justice without fear or favor, not to do whatever is politically convenient, or take orders from the president, from Congress, or anyone else about who or what to criminally investigate, unquote. Garland will deliver the statement as he faces vitriol from Republicans who accuse him of failing to protect the department from politicization and dissatisfaction from Democrats who say the department has been too timid in going after former President Donald Trump. USA Today reports this morning that Hunter Biden plans to plead not guilty to federal gun charges, is asking his initial court appearance be held by video conference so he won't have to travel to Wilmington, Delaware. That request is something the government has opposed. U.S. Magistrate Christopher Burke asked both sides to file written arguments about a video hearing. The government is scheduled to respond today. The initial hearing has not been scheduled yet. Congressional Republicans have attacked the charges against Hunter Biden and the handling of his investigation as, quote, a sweetheart deal, unquote, because his father is President Joe Biden. Being treated differently from typical defendants for a court appearance would also raise complaints of favoritism by David Weiss, U.S. Attorney in Delaware, who was appointed special counsel in the investigation. Elsewhere in politics, Jeff Marutian has been appointed to a Department of Energy position. The Department of Energy quietly promoted a top advisor to Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm to a senior role overseeing appliance regulations, this after he failed to clear Senate confirmation. The DOE announced last week that Jeff Marutian was appointed to be the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of the agency's Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. The appointment came days after the White House withdrew his name from consideration to lead the EERE as the office's assistant secretary. While Marutian's nomination failed after Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee Chairman Joe Manchin opposed him over the Biden administration's crackdown on natural gas-powered stovetops, his appointment last week made him the effective chief of the DOE's EERE, the Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Department. Democrats and Republicans are working to circumvent Speaker McCarthy and the Freedom Caucus right. This from USA Today. House Republicans remain engulfed by infighting, appear to be no closer to avoiding a government shutdown than they were 2 weeks ago. This, according to House Democrats, and the Democrats, have quietly stepped up into the showdown fight. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and House GOP leadership are working to garner support among lawmakers for a short-term stopgap funding measure called a continuing resolution negotiated by centrist and conservative GOP lawmakers. But House Democrats have begun discussions with moderate Republicans on a fallback plan if the stopgap bill falls through. A bipartisan coalition of lawmakers could bypass standard procedure and force a vote on a spending bill on the House floor if 218 members approve a measure called a discharge petition. That would effectively sidestep McCarthy and the House's right flank, which has called for hardline spending cuts. The economy this morning, it is official. The national debt has hit $33 trillion. This from CNN Business. As the U.S. national debt passes $33 trillion, a government shutdown looms. Wall Street is beginning to feel defensive. That shutdown could sour sentiment and deal a blow to an economy already dealing with high gas prices, auto worker strikes, and elevated inflation, with some saying it could even increase the possibility of a recession. Fitch Ratings downgraded U.S. sovereign debt from AAA to AA+ in August, citing the nation's mounting debt and partisan brinksmanship as major reasons behind its decision. The gross national debt has grown at an alarming pace since then, by $1 trillion in just the last 3 months. Political finger-pointing around what caused the accelerated debt accrual, meanwhile, has left the government at an impasse around the budget. The budget deficit, the difference between what the government spends and what it takes in, reached $1.5 trillion for the first 11 months of this fiscal year, an increase of 61% since last year. In LGBTQIA plus news, Fox News is reporting that Senator John Kennedy, the Republican from Louisiana, read from several explicit books found in public schools around the country yesterday. One of the titles was Kobabe's Gender Queer, a graphic novel that has caused controversy among parents and criticized for its depiction of sex acts, as well as discussions of self-pleasure. It was the most banned book in 2021, according to the American Library Association. Genderqueer author Maya Kobabe reacted to the Republican senator reading the sexually explicit passages from the book during a Senate hearing, saying that book is not recommended for kids. He responded, "It keeps being called a children's book. Senator Kennedy implied it was a children's book, but I think it's coming from a misreading of the comic book form. I originally wrote it for my parents, and then for older teens who are already asking these questions about themselves. I don't recommend this book for kids," said the author. In states news this morning, Michigan, the Hamtramck City Council is defending the removal of pride flags allowed to be flown in front of City Hall. This from Fox News. Hamtramck Mayor Amer Ghalib defended his city council decision to bar pride flags along with others from public property after facing backlash from the LGBTQ community. The Hamtramck City Council unanimously voted in June to ban, quote, any religious, ethnic, racial, political, or sexual orientation group flags, unquote. Only 5 flags are allowed to fly on public property: the U.S. flag, the Michigan flag, the Hamtramck flag, the prisoner of war flag, and a unique flag representing the nations from which many Hamtramck citizens hail from. In a statement to Fox News, Mayor Ghalib argued the decision was not focused on banning the pride flag, but rather on offering a neutral stance on political issues. Quote, the city council decided to stay neutral on such controversial issues. Public spaces and city properties are shared spaces among all residents, should not be used by special interest groups to promote their agenda. He went on to say, we just specified which flags would be allowed to fly on city properties. The U.S. flag, state, city, and POW flags allowed. Everything else is not. No other group complained except LGBT because everyone believes it's fair and just. Speaking of the decision, unquote. Ghalib's comments referred to backlash from the LGBTQIA plus community, with some feeling betrayed by the all-Muslim Hamtramck City Council in a city where approximately 40% of residents were born in foreign countries. Out of Texas, in states news, an illegal charged with murder was processed at the border and released months ago. This from Fox News. An illegal immigrant from Peru has been charged with murder after being arrested by police in Texas. Maverick County Sheriff's Office confirmed the 64-year-old Roberto Emilio Vasquez Santamaria was arrested in connection to a homicide that happened Monday in Eagle Pass. According to multiple U.S. Customs and Border Protection sources, Fox News has learned that Vasquez Santamaria crossed illegally into Texas in May, was released into the U.S. with a court date in 2025. Sources say the migrant was processed by Border Patrol after promising in writing to appear in court for upcoming proceedings. After signing the notice to appear on his own recognizance, Vasquez Santamaria was transferred to U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. In New York, the town of Brookhaven has now offered to take on the statuary woke New York City politicians want to remove. This also from Fox News. A town on Long Island said it would take any unwanted statues of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, or Christopher Columbus amid a push by woke New York City officials to have them removed from public display due to alleged ties with slavery and the mistreatment of Native Americans. The town supervisor for Brookhaven, New York, about 70 miles east of Manhattan in Suffolk County, told officials they would cover the cost of dismantling and shipping the statuary. Quote, I didn't want to comment on whether it was right or wrong because that's a decision for the city. But I said, if you're going to do that, hey, we'll take the statues. This according to town supervisor Edward Romaine talking to the New York Post. Quote, "We look at their accomplishments, what they did for their time, and how they contributed to the long arc of history." Added of the historical figures, he said, "and we would welcome having those statues." Cancellation. Tim Ballard is refuting sexual misconduct charges. This from USA Today. Tim Ballard, the former federal agent who took on child sex trafficking and inspired the movie Sound of Freedom, has denied a report he left his Operation Underground Railroad organization amid multiple claims of sexual misconduct. On Monday, Vice reported that Ballard, the group's founder, resigned 3 months ago after an internal investigation into allegations involving 7 women. Quote, "As with all assaults on my character and integrity over the many years, the latest tabloid-driven sexual allegation is false," said Ballard in a statement sent to USA Today by the Spear Fund, an anti-human trafficking group. Quote, "They are baseless inventions designed to destroy me and the movement we have built to end trafficking and exploitation of vulnerable children." Unquote. Sources who asked to remain anonymous because they fear retaliation told Vice that Ballard invited female employees to act as his wife on undercover overseas missions aimed at rescuing young victims of sex trafficking. Ballard would, according to the allegations, would coerce the women into sharing a bed or showering together, claiming that was necessary to fool traffickers. Comic Russell Brand has now been accused of rape and sexual misconduct, this being reported in the New York Times. Russell Brand has been accused by 4 women of sexual assault. The allegations were made public after an investigation by 3 media outlets. The investigation was a collaboration by the Sunday Times, the Times of London newspapers, and BBC Channel 4, a television program called Dispatches that broadcast a documentary about the allegations last Saturday. They reported the women accused him of sexual assault in a series of incidents between 2006 and 2013. Brand, in a video clip posted on social media, denied what he called serious criminal charges that came out in investigations and said his past sexual encounters had all been consensual. That is today's front page.